Welcome back to Guff Stuff Weekly. My name is Guff, and here with me is
Javan.
And this week we are talking about the new game, Company Heroes number 3, and whether I should play it or not. I know Javan's been playing it. I want to hear his first-hand opinion on it. I want to just get the lowdown. Let's talk about it. Let's see what's going on. All right. So what do you like about the game? What don't you like about the game? Let's start with what you like. No, let's start about what you don't like.
Okay. So, first things first, if you're playing on PC, which is where you're getting the game,
Right.
it has some pretty mixed reviews on Steam right now.
Okay.
I guess it had a pretty rocky release. I played it about 2 weeks after release, so they did some bug patches and stuff like that.
It's only been out for, what, a month?
About, yeah. And things I don't like about the game, I wish it was a little bit more fleshed out right now. That's kind of the main gripe of most people. There's some balance issues right now, but it just came out.
So isn't fleshed out like maps are incomplete or...
No, there's maps for everything. There's not a whole lot of maps.
Okay. So it feels kind of light.
It feels like a diet
Okay.
RTS compared to Company of Heroes 2.
Right.
Which has been going for 10 years and has all sorts of content.
I have played that one, but it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy it, though.
Company of Heroes 3, it's an RTS, real-time strategy. You start out with a base, you build it, it's set in World War II. You summon up guys, you take capture points, and you just try to out-resource your enemy. The main game mode is victory points. So there's 3 victory points on the map. If you control more victory points than your opponent,
Yep.
the tickets begin to count down.
Okay.
So it's like a timer almost.
Oh, yeah. So, is that 2 was like that also?
2 was like that, yep.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
I didn't play a whole lot of 2. Company of Heroes 3 is really my first deep dive / foray into Company of Heroes.
Well, it's a good game. I know the Company Heroes series is good, and it's World War II based, and obviously the locations are different in this one than the other one, I believe. I don't remember. I know you were... I'm not even going to speculate because it's been out so long.
Yeah. So the factions that you have access to in Company Heroes 3, let's start with the allies. You start with the Brits, who have some pretty dang good infantry, and their Royal Engineers are really strong.
Yep.
The Royal Engineers have submachine guns. They can get out there. They can man fight just about any other T1 unit in close range.
Okay.
So any tier 1 unit, they can just walk up to, like the Panzer Pioneers and the just the Pioneers for the German side, or the Fallschirmjägers, stuff like that.
The big words I can't pronounce.
Yeah, the big words that are hard to pronounce. I'm pretty good at pronunciation, so it's a
Fallschirm... Yeah, no, we're just going to keep
Fallschirm
going.
Pioneer.
Okay.
Moving into a little bit further, the Brits, like a lot of artillery, they have a couple battle groups or one battle group that's focused specifically on artillery, and you get heavy mortars and a truck that comes with it.
Okay.
It's very economical.
Right.
They play kind of like, I guess when it comes to StarCraft, I'm trying to draw some parallels here.
Right. Yeah, for people who have not played the Company Heroes game franchise quite yet.
Or Age of Empires. They're kind of you can play them multiple ways. You can play them heavy tanks.
Okay. I was always wondering if the new game let you just put out tanks and just go.
Yeah, so you have to tech up to it usually.
Right. Well, of course, yeah.
But the Brits get access to the Crusader tank at Tier 3, which is a pretty solid tank.
Yeah.
You can also go to the British Armored Battle Group, which lets you... And the battle groups are something that you get command points you generate for more kills, for controlling more of the map. You get experience, and you can spend these points on extra abilities.
Okay.
In addition to what you get for your core units.
Right.
Yeah, the Brits get some access to different artillery barrages. I've been playing a lot of Indian artillery.
Indian, as in
like the country India.
They were
back in World War II. The Brits still owned India.
Oh yeah. Okay, sorry.
So
my brain was like, why would India have? Because World War II still. Yeah. Silly.
But the Brits get some pretty nice commando sections too. They get like bazookas and all sorts of crazy stuff. You have to tech into grenades. Grenades are really powerful in street fighting and building fighting. You can dodge grenades if you're quick enough.
So is the game primarily based on urban combat, or is it...
There are some open field maps.
Okay.
There is some urban combat maps. There's a good mix of maps, I feel like, right now for just a general release. I think the game's worth the money, personally.
I think you said you put in 60 hours.
About 60
so
hours.
you put in at least $1 an hour.
$1 an hour. Yep, that's a good. If you're ever looking for a good value in your game or a good benchmark, just think going to a movie for 2 hours is about $20.
Yeah, that's if you're in a small town. If
Yeah.
you're in a big town, it's considerably more. Tickets, at least when I was in Guam, were this 15 years ago, were $20-some a ticket.
Jeez.
Not including the beverages and the snacks and if you're bringing your kids with and your wife with, all of a sudden it's $100 bill just to get in.
Well, don't get me wrong. There's some residual value there, where the memory of the movie and the.
Well, yeah, it's not the same thing though. If you can get $1 an hour worth of play, so you spend $60 on a game, you play for 60 hours. You can't get that form of entertainment anywhere else.
No, gaming is.
I mean, maybe reading a book if you read a book and enjoy it that much.
Yeah.
But movies and stuff, you just spend $20 on a DVD or rent a movie for $5.99. It's still 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's 3 hours if you rent a big movie for $5.99.
Lord of the Rings,
Still
extended cuts.
Still $2 an hour you're paying for the entertainment.
Yeah, but back to the Brits. They're a good all around faction. I think they're probably the most balanced all around faction. You can kind of do a little bit of everything with them.
They were kind of this focal point of World War II.
Yeah, for a long time, weren't they?
Well, the Brits and the Germans, I mean, that was really the big portion.
Yep. And then let's go talk about the U.S. a little bit. I haven't played too much of the U.S. I know their airborne battle groups are really strong.
So is it a timeline thing where you start off playing the Brits and then you can get to the U.S. later?
So you can play all the factions and multiplayer and stuff at the start. I'll talk about the single player a little bit later. I've been playing mostly multiplayer.
Okay.
The U.S. gets access to a lot of fun things. The M1 Garand rifles, the U.S. is pretty strong at medium range.
Right.
They get access to snipers, which are just brutal. The American snipers are crazy good. The American airborne, the Pathfinders are crazy good. They're dirt cheap. They trade really well. And then U.S., you get into the Shermans, which are just monsters of tanks.
Right.
They don't look very imposing, but
they're glass cannons.
No, they're pretty armored.
They did them pretty good in this one.
They did them pretty good. You have to buy armor upgrades for them to make them really tanky, but you can get like bulldozer Shermans that have more frontal armor and stuff like that.
Okay.
So the United States forces, you have special operations battle groups,
right?
Where you get like an M29 Weasel, which is this like tracked machine gun vehicle.
Okay. Is it a troop carrier?
It's a troop carrier. Yep. And there's one variant where you can actually load it up with flamethrowers. It comes with a unit of engineers with flamethrowers. So you run around the map with this 50 cal machine gun or 30 cal machine gun and a bunch of flamethrowers in the back, and you just wreck things at close range.
Nice.
Gosh, what else? You get access to SSF commandos, special forces. The armor group for the Americans isn't super strong right now.
Right.
But they get a really cool thing called the Sherman Whiz Bang, which is this crazy Sherman with a rocket launcher mounted on top of it, and that can be a lot of fun.
I wonder if that was a real tank.
Most of the stuff
I'm going to have to look that up. I mean, generally, I know from the old Company Heroes, the reason we even started playing it was because of World War II is one of our favorite researches. Because, grandparents were in World War II, blah, blah, blah. But when they throw stuff in there, like, you're just like, is that real? And then you're like, oh, I got to go find the internet, and you start typing away, and holy crap, that was real.
Yeah. Also, back to the Brits for just a second. Shout out to the Dingo Scout car.
Dingo Scout car. Okay. Yeah. It's a nice name for it.
The dreaded Dingo, we call it.
Nice.
But yeah, the U.S. forces, they're kind of specialized in infantry and then tanks. They don't get a whole lot for artillery.
Right.
That's kind of the British specialty.
Well, I mean, hauling all the artillery over is kind of a garbage thing to have to do anyway.
Mm-hmm. But the special forces, and then the U.S. is all about veterancy.
Okay. So
when you kill a bunch of units with a guy, they level up. There's max of 3 levels, veterancy levels. And the United States forces get certain upgrades based upon your veterancy.
Right.
So if you have a level 1 veterancy, a lot of the guys can like heal out of combat, or they're camouflaged.
That's handy.
Yeah. Or they get like sprinting abilities, or they get suppressing fires, and it's just really good all around.
I like that function when they put that in the games where your individual troops can, well, not even necessarily individual, but say if your snipers are doing extra good, they get extra bonuses later on, and that's I guess realistically, that's a little bit far-fetched, but not really, because if you had snipers in World War II, they would learn stuff, teach other snipers stuff. Like, hey, this is what you don't do. And all of a sudden, everybody in that side.
Yeah, you learn. It's a collective conscience or a collective learning. Axis. Oh, boy. Let's start with the Wehrmacht. That's the name of the German army.
Okay.
People call it the Wehrmacht, too. It's spelled Wehrmacht with the W, but in Germany it's pronounced with the V.
I'm sure our German listeners will.
The German listeners
will absolutely say something about it if we're wrong.
Yeah, if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, feel free to, email me at whatever. I'm not going to give you an email. But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Just shout at the headphones you're listening at.
Yep.
But the Wehrmacht, really good. They're kind of similar to the Brits, where they're good kind of all around. They have some access to some really cool... their mainline infantry isn't the greatest. The Panzer Grenadiers and the Grenadiers... Sorry, not the Panzer Grenadiers, just the Grenadiers.
Okay.
And the Pioneers. The Pioneers will trade with American infantry pretty alright at close range. And you can only ever play Axis versus Allies.
Right.
The game is balanced around Axis versus Allies. So if you have two Brits playing against each other, the game isn't balanced.
Right. So then something could be unbalanced badly.
Yeah. Or the U.S. versus the Brits, something could be imbalanced.
Right.
You can do it in custom game modes, but usually the game is designed around Axis versus Allies.
Yeah, it's for all those people that are getting upset that you can't beat your Dingo car with the Sherman tank or whatever. That's why, okay, guys. Games aren't meant to be balanced fighting your allies.
But so the Wehrmacht is really good at. They have some pretty sweet rocket barrages that they can get. They also have an airborne squad called the Falsch Pioneers, I think they're called. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But
yeah, I think I've done zero research on this game. I've read a little bit about it and watched some gameplay. That's about it. So
and
look pretty.
They're 4-man squads with rifles.
Nice.
And they can also function as engineers, so they can build sandbags, mines, stuff like that.
So in this game, I know I'm kind of cutting you off there, but in this game, if you lose one engineer, do the other three stay alive and it just works slower?
Yeah, so you lose efficiency as the guys die.
I'm pretty sure that's how it happened in the older games too. Right?
And you can reinforce squads. So like if you retreat a squad and it doesn't die completely, you don't have to pay the full manpower
you
for
come
the
back
squad.
And just pump like in StarCraft.
You get a discount.
Keep pumping your units back in instead of rebuilding the whole squad.
Yeah. And then instead of building one unit at a time, you're building squads in this game.
Okay.
So it's not building like one zealot.
Right, you're building a whole...
You're building four
engineers.
3 to 6 is the squad sizes.
Okay.
And it does matter how many people you have in a squad. Like Grenadiers come with 6 men. So if you try to take them at mid-range with a group of like British engineers...
Right.
The submachine guns just aren't going to rip through those Car 98s that they have. They're just going to... The Car 98s are just going to take them out at mid-range.
Right, yeah, well before the submachine gun's going to do anything.
Yeah.
I like that. It's good. It's good.
So flanking is very important. Fog of War is really important too. British get some pretty cool upgrade packages where they can like fire recon flares and stuff like that.
Okay.
Because you can always upgrade your troops as well to have different like machine guns and things like that.
Right. Is there day and night?
No. Well, there's day. No, there's no day.
Okay.
And night.
I was just curious. That'd be extra cool.
It'd be pretty cool. But the matches typically go. I've had matches go 15 minutes. I've had matches go 45 minutes.
Okay.
So it's really. It could be a back and forth, really struggle. But I've never had a game go longer than 45 minutes.
So how's resource management?
Resource management is you get a static amount of resources.
Okay.
And then you have to capture points on the map.
Yep. Okay.
And those points on the map will give you bonus resources.
Right. You call them...
Control nodes.
Control nodes, yeah.
That's what I call them. That's probably not their...
Well, it works for
resource
me. That's
nodes.
fine. I just wanted to understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, so back to the Wehrmacht. They get some pretty cool tanks. They get the Panzers.
Germans and their tanks.
They can get the Tigers. Tigers. Yeah. Tigers basically the biggest, baddest in the game. The only thing that could probably toe-to-toe it is like a Black Prince Churchill.
Right.
And even that's like, whoever gets the first shot off is probably going to win.
Well, I think Germans were putting out quite a few more tanks than the British were at the time anyway.
Well, and the Germans were blitzkrieging with the tanks. They had a lot of the Panzers were fast and very, very good against infantry. You can get a Stug, it's called. It's an anti-infantry tank. It fires basically an artillery shell.
Yep.
Oh, that thing is sweet.
In World War II Online, they call it a Stug.
Yeah, Stug. I always call them the Stooges.
Yeah, Stooges. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guys are just sitting back up against the wall and wait for someone to try and
And
take
there's
them
so
on.
much front armor.
Yeah,
on them,
you're like,
to 'em.
I'll just leave the guy. Just move on.
Yep. And then the final faction is the Desert Africa Corps. The DAC for short. And that's based off of Erwin Rommel's army in North Africa and Libya at the time.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know who Erwin Rommel is, he's a German general known as the Desert Fox. It's a pretty prominent figure in World War II history. Yep. The DAC get a cool ability where all of their guys can work on vehicles. So if your vehicles get damaged, typically you need to have an engineer to fix them. Where the DAC get Panzer Pioneers, Pioneer squads, their assault grenadiers can work on vehicles.
So they were like the World War II rednecks.
Yeah, basically.
Everybody's got duct tape.
Everybody's got duct tape and an arc welder.
Yeah, and they can all get out and work on shit stuff.
Yeah, and then the DAC are really good. They go combined arms into Italian infantry or Italian tanks. And then so you get a lot of these light tanks and these heavy infantry that just... DAC players are scary. I think they're probably the strongest faction right now.
I wonder if it's just because it's such an unknown faction. Like, you started talking about it earlier, and I knew that World War II basically, most of it happened in Africa initially, and then we chased them out of there. And
yeah.
But you don't really, that's never been the focus. The focus, at least in American history, is
the Western.
The D-Day and thereon. It really wasn't about Africa, even though that was a huge portion of it.
Yeah. And that's always been the part of the history that's interested me. So when I play Allies, I play British. When I play Axis, I typically play DAC.
Right, that's pretty interesting.
And
then you're not even playing the allies of the African companies. You're playing the Axis.
Yeah.
So,
and the cool thing too about the game is when you play in tournaments, in 1v1 tournament modes, you have to alternate.
Okay.
So you have to play Axis one time, Allies another time, and then if the game goes to 3, you have to play Axis again.
Okay.
And then vice versa, Allies, Axis, Allies.
That makes sense. That keeps one faction from being the only one played, and then nobody can play against the enemy faction.
Yep, it's a really cool design scheme, I think.
I know if you play like lots of the other games, whether it's Empire Earth or Age of Empires or StarCraft's really notorious for it. You'll get 500 Terran players and 2 Protoss players and a Zerg player.
Yeah,
and it's like it's kind of lame. I mean, maybe it's not that bad, but I know back when I was first initially playing, it was heavy Terran.
Yeah, and
then some Protoss and then a few Zergs.
Yeah, and it's like Protoss beats Zerg, Zerg beats Terran, Terran beats Protoss.
But with this one, you have to alternate back and forth. So
yeah,
that's kind of cool. Good to learn to play all the factions then, because otherwise you're just going to get trounced when you're not playing.
Yeah, the DAC also get access to half tracks, which have like machine guns or troop carriers, kind of similar to the Weasel from the Americans.
The Weasel,
but you can convert them later on into like mortar half tracks.
Oh, nice!
And just do some like soft artillery barrages.
That's cool.
The DAC are known kind of for their armor, though. That's like the big thing that they're known for,
right?
Because they can also get Tigers. They get Panzer IIIs, I think.
Ofta.
And they can actually transport troops on their Panzers.
Oh, of course they can.
So they can ride around grenadiers on the Panzers and stuff. So you always have infantry backup with your tank, which is really handy if you run into a squad of like bazookas.
Right, yeah, you get a couple of freezer guys and all of a sudden the bazookas are useless.
And then the nice thing is with DAC is once you finish that fight, say you take out the bazookas, you can just repair the tank.
Right, because everybody's got tape and welders. Yeah, of course. That's cool.
So that's kind of the multiplayer and the general overview of the factions. Right. The single player has been really fun.
Okay.
They have 2 campaigns for single player. And they went to a kind of Total War style campaign.
Okay.
Where there's an overmap and you have to collect resources, keep your guys supplied. You can artillery bombard on the overmap. And then when you go in to capture a city or take a strategic point or meet somebody on the road, you can auto-resolve battles or you can go in and manually fight them.
Nice. Okay. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and the Italian campaign is the campaign that's being played. It's a combined arms. You play as the British and the U.S.
Okay.
And you can get sections from both of them. So like you can have Indian artillery groups moving around, you can have special forces groups moving around. I think right now I'm running 2 Indian artilleries, a paratrooper, and a special forces.
Nice.
So I use my special forces to go behind enemy lines.
Right. Do their little sneaky.
Yeah, just move through forests and stuff like that, and then they're pretty dang good at taking out armor.
Right.
The Indian artillery is my main line infantry that I use. They're just very good because they can go into recon mode with one of them, see more of the map, see the tank emplacements and anti-tank emplacements, and then use the other one to fire mortar shells onto them. And yeah,
I can see people right now trying to look up the Indian artillery. Because, I mean, when you told me the first time, I'm like, what? What? They were even important in World War II? What?
Oh, yeah, they were very important.
Yeah,
I actually get one of the coolest infantry, too, the Gurkha.
I mean, I know the Navajo were, which is a totally different type of native, but it was interesting. I enjoyed I guess I knew that. I just didn't know it because nobody puts that in
learn
games.
about the British side of World War II, really.
Well, no, all you learn is about the island of, the island being attacked. And then
they're bombed. Yeah, that's all you really learn.
Right, yeah, you don't learn about all the other crap that went on well before the Americans jumped in.
But that's just because we're for those of you who don't know, we're in the U.S.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how it's taught here.
Yeah.
We learn a lot about the Pacific Theater.
Right. Oh, yeah, well, we learned a lot more about the Japanese side of it.
And then basically 1944 theater and forward.
Yeah, exactly.
In Europe.
Exactly. So when you start saying that stuff, it kind of catches me off guard still.
Yeah.
Which I enjoy. I like being caught off guard. So.
Yep. And then, so the Combined Arms campaign, the Italian campaign, honestly, the game, I would say, is maybe half worth it for that alone.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's worth it for the single-player experience alone.
Right.
But you can do skirmish maps against the computers and
of
stuff
course,
like that.
yeah. It is that the only campaign right now?
Nope, there's 2 campaigns.
Okay.
So the second campaign, you play as the Desert Africa Corps.
Okay.
And that's a narrative campaign.
Okay.
So it's just a bunch of battles with cutscenes and movies in between. And that follows the story of the people of Benghazi in Libya.
not modern day Benghazi.
Yeah, not modern
old
Benghazi.
Benghazi.
Old Benghazi. Yeah.
World War II stuff.
It follows the stories of a Jewish family in Benghazi, and the father goes off to serve, and the daughter's doing like subterfuge.
Well, that's cool.
And,
I actually like that kind of play style. When the first time I played through a game, I like that narrative or that with the cutscenes because it usually gives you lots of information you just didn't know. And if it's accurate, it's accurate. If it's not, it's not. It's still entertaining.
And the cool thing is the story is told from the side of the guy from Benghazi serving with the British. But you play as the Germans. So you get both sides of the story.
Right.
And that's pretty cool.
That is.
The missions are like you go knock out fuel depots,
stuff you'd actually do, not stuff you'd read in a history book.
Yeah, and it's not just a pitched battle back and forth the whole time. There's actually objectives to play.
Right.
And that's the one thing I like about the Italian campaign too, is that different missions have different objectives. Like one of the ones I just played was knock out a bunch of coastal guns.
Nice.
Well, then they have machine gun nests that were a secondary objective that you had to take out.
Oh, good.
And you could buy upgrades for your guys. Like you get access to more artillery barrages, more units.
Right. I think I'm sold. I'm going to have to go buy it.
It's pretty good.
Dang it. Another game. God darn.
Yeah.
I don't have enough time to play all of them, but I'm going to play that one.
Again, if you wait 6 months to a year to buy it, it'll probably be more fleshed out.
Yeah.
But I think in its current state, it's worth playing.
Well, I mean, if you felt like you got your 60 hours in.
I definitely am going to get my 60 hours in.
There you go. I know.
And it's just going to get better.
I know the person that plays, my son plays, and he's put some hours into it. I'm not 100% sure how many, but I know he's played it, and he liked it, so.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else you want to add before we're done for this round of questioning?
No, that's all I got. I really enjoyed the game.
All right. Well, we'll do a follow-up later. If I get to buy the game and we play it a little bit more and Javen plays a little bit more, and we'll come back and do another follow-up. We just want to get that out there before it just got lost in the wind and nobody talks about it anymore.
Right.
It's nice to get that out there, talk about it a little bit, get excited about it.
I don't think the game's going to get thrown to the curbside. So
no, I know that
pretty good.
if you don't get a podcast or a video up about a game right away, it just kind of gets left behind. It's like anything. If you don't keep up with current events, it just gets left. And in the gaming industry, it's just as bad as the rest of them. Mm-hmm. So, but it's nice to talk about that. I know that a while back, I did Amazon Studios made the New World, and I made it like a week after it came out.
Yep.
And that at the time, that was my most viewed or listened to podcast. And So I kind of want to try to do that with the games we're buying today that are new, that have been released, or beta or alpha or whatever. And I thought Company Heroes is a good one.
Yeah.
So,
solid game.
alrighty. Well, until next time.